Alright, so we made a Fusion account and now it's time to get going in Fusion. There are two main types of designs files that we're going to use in Fusion. The first is a body. And so the way we create bodies is we are going to start with two-dimensional sketches. So imagine a flat plane, and then we're going to turn them into three-dimensional objects using different features in Fusion like extrude and revolve. So let's get into it and show you how it's done. Alright, so in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this part here. So what we have here on the screen is we have an 18-tooth sprocket used for high-strength chain in our VexVR VRC parts. Okay, so if I look at this part here a little bit, we can kind of see there's some different pieces here. So we're going to be making this part, we're going to make it as close as we can to it, to this part. So we're going to use this as kind of a reference piece when we need to. And this will also demonstrate a lot of the features that we'll use in Fusion to make parts. It doesn't really make sense to make this part regularly, so I don't encourage you to just go and copy all the Vex parts, because the Vex parts libraries just come, you can get those from anywhere. But what this will do is it'll teach us all the skills we need to do in order to make our own custom parts later when we need to. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into it. So before we get too far, what we need to do is start by making a new design. So if we go over here and click on the design button, we can then go to design and just click on the design there. And that should, we actually go to file, new design. So now we have a blank template here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make a sketch. So we're going to go up here, upper left-hand corner, we're going to click Create Sketch. The nice thing about Fusion, if you're not sure what something does, just simply take your mouse, hover over the item you're looking at, and it will show you what that is all about. So we're going to create our sketch. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick an axis to a plane to start out doing our sketch. I'm going to pick the XZ plane. And the way I know it's the XZ plane is by looking at my navigation cube in the upper right-hand corner. Alright, so I've got my plane. I'm going to start off by drawing a basic circle here. So I'm going to pull my circle out. I'm not 100% sure how big I have my circle. Really quick here, I do have my document in inches. If you need to change the units, right here you can click Change Active Units, and you can switch between whatever you like. So here we have our circle. Now, if I wanted to actually know how big this guy is, what I can do, so right now I'm trying to mock up this inside disk here. So what I can do is I can press the I key, which is Inspect, and I can actually click on this rim here, and I can, and it will actually tell me over here the diameter there is 43 millimeters. Okay, 43 millimeters. I want to get that inches, so I can just go here, change to inches, not meters, inches. And we can do that again. I is Inspect. I can just click on the radius. So it is about 1 11/16 inches in diameter. So now I can go over here. We can now dimension our circle. So dimension is right here. You can also get to that tool by pressing D on your keyboard. And so we simply click on the outside, and now I'm moving my mouse outside so I can see the actual dimension. And now it's going to let me select what the dimension is. So I'm going to do 1 and 11 divided by 16. And there we have it. There is my circle that I want. So at this point here, we have a dimensioned sketch. Notice that the outline is all in black. That means it is fully constrained. So now what I can do is click Finish Sketch. Alright, so now we have this circle. So we want to make that disk there. So I'm going to go click on the isometric view on my navigation cube, so now I can see my disk here. So the next thing I want to do is I want to turn that into a thin disk. Okay, so I'm going to use the extrude command. So now extruding is simply going to take a 2D profile and pull it away from the flat surface to create a three-dimensional space. So here we're going to select our face, and we can simply grab the arrow and pull it away. Okay. So I'm 13/64 is probably a little thin, so let's go 19/64. That seems fine. If you zoom in, you get more precision on it. So maybe 11/32 is what we want. And I'm just going to kind of make these dimensions up as we go here, just for the sake of time. Now you'll notice mine is kind of like in a wood shape. That's because I have my default settings to be the material is wood. So if I go ahead and select this and right click, we can actually change the physical material, or you can change appearance. I'm going to change my appearance here. So right now it's currently set at pine. We don't really make our stuff out of pine, so let's actually go down to plastic here, and let's make it, let's do Here we have a ABS white, so we'll just make this ABS white. Okay, so now we're doing it in plastic. At least it looks like it's plastic. Okay, so let's keep on moving. So the next step we need to do with our design is we need to make this outer rim that's a little bigger. And so the way we're going to do this here is we're going to make it large enough that it goes from here to the edge of the tooth. So I'm going to go ahead and click I here. I'm going to measure from here to the outside. And so that distance there is 23/64. 23/64. So now I can just jump over to my other design. And we're going to do another sketch. Now this sketch here, it's important that we put it on the correct plane here. So I don't want to put it necessarily on any of these planes here. I actually want to do it on the surface of my discs. This is really important. So you got to move your mouse. You don't want them on the planes. I want to do it on the surface of the disc. So I click that surface, and so you'll notice it's highlighted in blue there for a moment. So now I've got my drawing here, and all I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw two circles. I'm going to draw two circles. I'm going to draw one that goes a little bit beyond, and I'm going to draw another one that goes a little bit further out. I'm going to hit enter. So now I need to dimension those so that they can stay in place. So I click this dimension here, and I'm going to make this one the exact same dimensions as my first circle. Oops. So there it. That's not what we wanted. So again, if you get something you don't like, just hit escape. So we hit dimension here. So I don't like what was selected there, so I hit escape a couple times. So I'm going to select my circle here. Now that was 1 11/16, so I can just do that. So now I know it's right on top. And now I can use my dimension tool again, and now I'm just going to go to the outside here, and I know that guy should be 23/64. 23/64, right? And so now I can hit finish sketch. Notice I have two black circles. That means they're fully constrained. You don't have to have them fully constrained, but it is nice to have them fully constrained. So I'm going to click on my isometric view from the lower, so let's see, top right or whatever. And so now we have our region. So now we're going to use the extrude command, and we're going to select just that outer ring. And so notice we just have that outside ring. So for our outside ring here, we're going to do a two-sided extrusion. And so here's why we're going to do two-sided extrusion. We need to do a two-sided extrusion because we have to account for the fact that we have this gap here to worry about. So we have to come that distance down, and then we have to go a little bit more whatever our thickness is on the top. So I'm going to do my top extrusion first. I'm only going to bring that up just a little bit here. Probably 330 seconds is good, and then unfortunately it's going to keep doing a different material each time, so just bear with me, we'll fix it all at the end. So 330 seconds on the bottom. So now on right here, I'm going to go the whole width of it. Well, actually, no, it is doing ABS. That's good. So I'm going to go the whole width of it, and I can actually just kind of eyeball this a little bit. And I'm going to go another 330 seconds. So if I want to get a precise amount here, I actually just type it in over here on the right. So I can just do plus 3 divided by 32 here. And look at that. It actually did the mathematical operation for me inside of the field. So I'm going to enter there. Okay, so now I have this nice extra outside ring here. Let's kind of get out here a little bit. This nice outside ring that's going to allow me to do my teeth. So the next step is we need to draw the teeth. So to draw our teeth, we're going to again do another two-dimensional sketch, and I'm going to draw it on the top here. Now for this step here, we want to get this V here. So if we go back and look at our sprocket, it's kind of a weird shape. But the base shape of this is a V. Okay, so we're going to kind of sketch up like a V here, and then with a point in the V here, and then we're going to add some angled pieces here to make it a little cleaner. And again, it won't be perfect. It won't be perfect, but it'll be close. So here we go. So we've got our sketch going. I'm going to zoom in up here, and again, I'm just using the scroll wheel on my mouse to get close. Okay, and so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the line tool here, and so I'm just going to start creating some lines here, and these lines are just going to kind of be out here in space. So I'm just going to go, let's go 530 seconds here. That looks pretty good. And click there. So now with the line tool, you click once, and if you keep clicking, they kind of go all over the place. And if you want to end your line, you just click the check mark. That ends the line. We don't want all those lines, so I'll just select them and delete them. So in this case here, we want a specific line. So we're going to start here. Now I want this to be the same length as my other one here. So 530 seconds. Okay, so it wants to create another line, so I just click the check mark and okay, I'm done. Now I'm also going to create another line that's kind of going down this way. It's going to be at 90 degrees, and we're going to come some depth into our into our sprocket. So here I'm just going to go 1/4 of an inch. I'm thinking here actually, do we want to go 530? Let's go 1/4. Let's go 7/32. That looks good. And we click the check mark. Okay. So there's no rhyme or reason to why I picked those measurements. If I was doing this really precisely, I would measure the distance between the teeth and the depth. But for this tutorial, I'm not too worried about those dimensions. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the line tool again, and I'm going to create my V. So again, notice there it kind of automatically ended it for me because it knew I connected to another end. So now notice I have these regions here. So these are the regions I want. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the trim tool. So the trim tool is going to allow me to cut off pieces I don't want, because these were kind of just used for the construction. By the way, if you do something you don't like, you're like, oh no, I deleted something I didn't want, I just use the undo trim tool. Like, so right up here you have undo and redo. Super handy. So we go back to trim. I want to get rid of that one, this one, that little guy there, this guy here, and I want to get rid of this one. So now notice I have this nice V that's very nicely placed on my dimension. And I should have, if I exit out of this, I have this nice region. We want the region is the really critical part here. Okay, we want that region. Okay, so we've got our region here. Probably could drag this down here a little bit more. Let's go about there. That looks a little bit better. Maybe these need to be a little bit wider. And notice that those are staying on the outside of the circle there. So this is really nice. We have a nice, nice thing here. So let's add a couple dimensions here. Let's dimension the angle here. So let's make that a 75-degree angle. That looks nice. Okay. And then let's do this. So we don't really want the sharp V at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a fillet. So a fillet here is going to give us a nice rounded curve at the bottom. Okay, and we can actually adjust how strong that fillet is. And so we'll leave it right about there. Then again, we're just trying to learn the principles of a design here. We're not trying to make it perfect. So there we have our design. Okay. All right, so let's do a circular pattern now. To do our circular pattern, we go to circular pattern and we have to select our shapes. It won't let us select the region, but we can select the lines here for our sketch. So it says we have 4 things selected, and now we need to pick a central point. So we want to rotate around the very center of the circle. So we just click the center of the circle. And notice it added 2 more for us because right now we have it set to 3. This is supposed to be an 18-tooth sprocket. So let's add 18 gaps there. And wow, look at that. The design on that outside looks really, really nice there. So now we can hit OK. And notice we have the cutout pattern for our teeth. So we're going to hit finish sketch here. And we're going to go to our isometric view right there. And now let's go and do a cut. So a cut here is an extrusion, except it's into the body. And so when it's into the body, it actually cuts away the material instead of adding material to it. So I can use the extrude command. And then this part here, you need to make sure you're clicking very carefully. So we're going to click each of these regions here. If I click here, it's going to do the whole thing. I don't want to do that. So if I just click it again, it cancels it. So I can do that there. And I just go around and I'm clicking in these regions. All right, so I've got all my regions there. Now I can just drag my arrow down and notice how the color is red. Red means you're doing a cut. So again, a cut removes material, and so you want to make sure that's red. You can also change that option here in this menu, but we just want to cut. And so here we hit OK, and wow, look at that. Now it's really starting to look like a gear. Wow, and now it's really starting to look like a gear. So if we kind of rotate around here a little bit, this thing is starting to come together. Not perfect, but it's definitely come together. Let's add our last couple features here. So the last couple features we're going to add here for this particular design is we're going to add our square hole for our axles, and we're going to add our holes here for screws. Those are the last 2 things we're going to add. Okay, so we're going to go in here. We're going to do another 2-dimensional sketch, and again, make sure you select the interior side of the disc. We do not want to select the plane here, so I select there. Okay, and I want to draw a rectangle. I'm going to draw a rectangle around there, and I'm actually going to draw a second rectangle here. Okay, so I got my two rectangles here, and we're going to zoom in here, and we're going to make this hole. We're going to make this hole here big enough to accept a 1/8 inch axle. So we need to make these lengths here. We need to make them an 1/8 inch, and we're going to add a little bit to them. So we're going to do 1/8, and we're going to add. Let's add a 16th. We're going to add a 16th, so 3/16, and we're going to do that on both sides. Now, since I want to make sure these two are the same, I've got my dimension highlighted. I can actually just click another dimension, and we'll automatically fill it in. So if I change this dimension here, and maybe I want that to be 0.4. Okay, notice it changed the other one as well. Okay, that's a really handy feature if you kind of want to keep things, it's a really neat feature if you want to keep things consistent. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to make sure it's centered on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the distance from the center to this line out here is the same. So we want this distance to be half of this distance. So I'm selecting D16. I'm going to do divide by 2. Look at that. Makes it perfect. Okay, I can click here, and so the center and the top line, and I'm going to force it to be the same as my previous calculation. So notice these are kind of chaining and cascading. So if I change one dimension, they'll kind of all change accordingly, so it's the same. And now I have my inside circle. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add another one on the outside. The reason we're doing that is on this one it's a circle, but on the high strength one it's actually a square. So we're just going to go with a square today. Actually, so I guess. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to simply set my width, and so a 1/16 of an inch is good. So we'll make sure that it's a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. And again, I'm selecting. Why is it not letting me do that? There we go. So make sure they're all the same. And we're finishing up here. And again, remember, I'm always referencing my old ones. Okay, and now I have a square here in the middle that is perfectly dimensioned, and it's always going to be centered. So I go finish sketch. And so now what we can do is we can make some extrusions. So we're actually going to do 2 extrusions here. So I'm going to go to my isometric view again. I'm going to do 2 extrusions here. My first extrusion is just going to be this outside perimeter. And so I'm going to do a 2-sided extrusion. We're going to come up. 3/32 is fine. And then on the bottom here, so on my second one, I'm going to come all the way through. And now, and notice it's turning it red. It wants to do a cut. We don't want to do a cut. So that looks good. So instead of a cut here, I don't want to actually cut it out. I want to do a join. So a join is actually going to make it join on to the previous part. And I'm going to hit OK. Or we're going to hit, OK right here. Okay, so now I have my nice center circle. Okay, well, that didn't cut out the middle though. So what do? Well, we just do another extrusion. So if I do another extrusion, it's going to let me select the middle here. And this one, we're going to cut. So we just, whoopsies. Let's cancel that. I didn't like how it was going, so I just hit cancel. Right there, I'm going to grab my arrow, come all the way through, hit OK. And so now I've got my nice hole here. So the last thing I need to do here is I need to cut my holes here. And so if we go back and look at our picture here, we have 4 holes here that I need to put in there. So there's a couple ways I could do this. I could do a 2-dimensional sketch for each hole, do a circular pattern, and cut them that way, or I can actually use the hole command. So we go over to create here, and right there we have a hole command. We can actually go on here and we can just go and place holes. So I select my face that I want to put it on, and right there we have a hole. Boom. Okay, so and the hole command gives you a lot of controls on how you actually make the holes. So you can have a counter bore, you can have a countersink, you can have it tapered, you can have it tapped, etc. You can have it flat, angled. The hole command can be really nice. And it also allows us to control a lot of dimensions inside this window. It also allows us to give some reference here. So like I can cut it directly on that or something like that. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to do a 2-dimensional sketch on my plane here. And I'm going to define a couple construction lines here. So these are lines that are going to be on the sketch, but I'm not going to use them. So I'm going to make these a 1/2 inch away from my hole, from my center one. So we're going coming down a 1/2 inch on each of these. And again, these lines are just going to give me a spot to place my hole. If I could get it, there's 1/2 inch. Okay. So there I have my construction. I'm going to go finish sketch. And now if I go to my hole command, I can just select right there and it puts it right on the point, which is perfect. That sketch won't show up in our final design, but we can see our hole. So that hole's a little too big, so we want to be a little bit smaller than that. So let's just kind of drag it in until we like it. So they've got 13-30 seconds, so let's maybe, if we're not sure, we know he's come over here, we need to use the I command to inspect, and the diameter of that hole is 330 seconds. Okay, so, okay, oops, I lost my editing window for my hole. What do? I can right click on the hole and go to edit feature. Alright, so that one should be 1330, it should be, what was it over here? Is it 1330 seconds or 330 seconds? I can't remember. 330 seconds, that's the radius is 330 seconds. So the diameter is 11/64. So we need 11/64. Let's try to remember that this time. So I right click on hole, I edit feature, and I change this to 11/64. 11/64. There's my hole. That seems a little small. Okay. So now what I can do is I can actually just repeat that command, and it's not letting me click those shapes like this. So I did screw up here a little bit. So we're actually going to delete that feature. I have to actually do the hole on each of these points here. So I have to click here, I click here, here, and here. So now I have my four holes there. All right, so 1/2 inch hole is too big. Let's try a quarter. A quarter seems about right. So we'll go with that. And look, there I have my holes. Okay, and now we have a homemade from scratch sprocket that looks kind of similar to our high strength sprocket that we've made from Vex. Okay, and we've used a ton of features here that relate to what we can use for making all kinds of other projects. So the final thing we have to do is don't forget to click save. You're going to save it, pick where you want to save it, and you're off to the races. And that's how we design a part in Fusion. Hope this video was helpful for you. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Coach Mueller signing off.